Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Triple Threat Comics YouTube channel. I'm your host, Ian Miller. Tonight, I am welcoming back a friend of mine, Michael Jan Friedman, and introducing a new friend of mine, Bob Greenberger. Guys, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me, Ian.
Of course, of course. I'm very excited to introduce this particular project that you guys are doing, which is called Thrilling Adventure Yarns 2026. So, why don't you tell the audience what it's about?
Bob?
Sure. Okay, so Thrilling Adventure Yarns is my personal tribute to the golden age of pulp magazines and adventure stories. I found them when I was, I guess, a young teen back in the 70s when The Shadow, The Spider, Doc
Uh,
Savage stories were all being reprinted by Bantam Books. And that was my gateway to the pulp magazines. And it was just, something that seeped its way into my blood. And back around 2019, came up with the idea of doing this anthology, kickstarting it, and I've been blessed by the 4 successful campaigns so far.
this is incredible. Um, yeah, so obviously these pulp stories have different genres. There's obviously the detective one, the action one, the sci-fi one. It's fair to say this is all a mixture of that, right?
Right. My real inspiration would go back to All Story magazine, which is where Edgar Rice Burroughs debuted Tarzan.
Oh,
Because All Story had all the genres. So I wanted all the genres. So over the course of the previous 4 volumes, we've had war, aviation, western, romance, sword and sorcery, occult, mysteries, two-fisted adventurers, and whatever else Mike wrote.
oh, that's fantastic. That's fantastic. So Mike, what kind of you've obviously contributed in the story section. What did you write?
Well, I've been contributing to this great concept throughout, and I have some fantasy stories, some sword and sorcery. I did a superhero story, and this time around, I'm doing a science fiction story. And since it's an homage to the pulps, I figured I would take an old science fiction trope and play with it. And this particular trope is the beam that takes one from Earth to some other planet, where you get to be a hero on that other planet. I guess the first instance of it that I'm aware of was during the John Carter of Mars series, Edgar Rice Burroughs.
Yeah.
John Carter of Mars, who inspired, to some extent, Superman, with the powers that he was able to gain from being on Mars, which has lesser gravity, and then it came up again um, in the Adam Strange series from DC back in the 60s.
Yeah.
And the idea is that some beam hits you and just whisks you to another planet. And I thought, gee, that would be an interesting thing to play with. And in my story, it's kind of a humorous story, but it's also kind of poignant. And the hero is a guy who gets whisked to another planet, but it doesn't work out exactly the way it does for John Carter and Adam Strange.
Yeah.
And I have to say, the concept of thrilling adventure lines is one that's always gotten my juices flowing. There's so many possibilities and such a wellspring of inspiration, um, in the pulps that gave birth to really all the superheroes and a lot of the adventure stories that we see today. So I'm thrilled. It's it these adventure yarns are thrilling for me too.
That's fantastic. Yeah, because like you guys, I also read the reprints of The Shadow, The Spider, and so on. So I'm definitely in tune with the pulp classics, and it's very refreshing to see you guys tackling this because again, it's kind of a lost art to create these type of stories for a magazine for something like this because you don't really see that anymore. But the fact that you guys are taking a chance and people are clearly invested because I'm looking at the serious donation numbers right now and it's fantastic. I'm like, okay, maybe it's not a dying art. Maybe there are hardcore fans, and new fans that just want to read good stories.
Yeah,
Well, I
we've been
think
very fortunate that we've got a very loyal core that we would like to be able to expand and introduce the series to other readers as well. So that we can not only hit our goal and be fully funded, but also hit some of the stretch goals and basically grow our base.
I think you have
one of
potential, guys.
the things that you see in these collections that Bob's put together is it's not only an homage to the pulps, it also brings out in these writers and me and my fellow writers um,
Mhm.
our best work. There are some terrific stories, even if you didn't know that they were pulp stories. There are some terrific stories in each of these volumes. Everybody's doing great stuff, and frankly, I don't get to read these until they come out, just like everybody else, and I love them. It's some of my favorite reading.
Thanks. What has been really fortunate is Mike and I are part of Crazy Eight Press, and that means we've got a core group of authors, all of whom have contributed, most of whom have contributed to each volume. But I then seed the book with other authors, and I try and freshen it with each book, which allows me to bring in other writers with their own takes on pulp stories or their own followings that come join us. And part of the fun for me is who can I get new each volume and keep everybody, surprised, hopefully pleasantly surprised.
Well, of course, again, you want to keep things exciting, and yeah, you've got authors like Mike here and other authors, but again, it's always nice to add someone new, saying, okay, let's see what if someone of this generation, responds to, the pulps of the writers of the past. So yeah, I can see why that's appealing, and so far it's worked. It.
I I agree. I always start each volume with a wish list of authors that I would like to see and invite in. And there's always like four or five at the top of the list who I know are too darn busy to get involved, but I invite them anyway. If anything, it's to let them know I'm thinking of them. And then this year, much to my surprise, Max Allan Collins, who is in some ways one of the living embodiments of the old style pulp writers, given his volume, um, is uh, is in the book. He said, "I've got a story for you." I was like, "Really? I'll take it."
Oh yeah, that
Yeah,
guy's also fantastic.
Yeah, it's a Sherlock Holmes story that he wrote with his frequent collaborator Matthew Clemens, and it's fun seeing Max take on such a classic character, who, he appeared in the Strand magazine back in the 1880s and all, and that was like the British forerunner of the pulp magazine. So there is a connection.
Yeah. It's crazy. I was just reading one of Max's novels, True Detective.
Those early Nathan Hiller books are wonderful.
I
So you're in
know,
for a
I know.
treat.
Oh, I can't wait for this. Okay, I'm definitely going to contribute to this.
I should say also that the look of the book is also distinctive. You have if you look at the cover, it looks worn as if it's something that's been read and read again and read again. It's so you have that kind of um, dog-eared look to the cover, and even the interior of the book looks very much. It's set up. The type is set up very much the way it would have been in an old pulp magazine. So it's really a complete package.
And one of the fun things we added, starting a volume or two back, people could buy custom advertising, give us a product, real or fake, and we would design an ad to resemble how the ads looked in the old pulps. So now you're getting old pulp advertising. We've had illustrations, and it really gets that feel of the magazine.
Oh, you guys
Yeah.
all went out.
Yeah, we went all out. But also, in every incarnation of thrilling adventure yarns, there's a little more of this than that. Maybe a little more fantasy in this one, maybe a little more science fiction in that one. In this one, we have a little more crime fiction, right? Is that right? Fair to say?
More crime and more sword and sorcery. That's what the readers want. That's what we get.
I'm sorry?
I said that's what the readers want. That's what the readers get.
Right.
I love it. I love it. This sounds fantastic. Tell you what, why don't we show them the Kickstarter page?
Sure.
I just hold on. Wow. Okay, so
There we are.
Yeah, you got 12 days to go, and we got to make sure that you get your goal.
Thank you. If you scroll a little, you can show readers the cover that Jeff Hayes did. Jeff's an amazing artist.
Wow.
And he's done books for Mike. He's done books for me and a lot of other people in our field. And here, this is the French crime figure Lupin sneaking down from the rafters. Mary Fan wanted to tackle a Lupin story, and he fits right in. So this should be fun.
Wow, it's a great cover, and it's also a good idea to use Lupin.
Yeah. In some cases, these are pulp protagonists that have been around, and in other cases, they're original characters. You can see.
So as you can see, go ahead, Mike.
No, I was going to say exactly what you were going to say. That this is the fifth edition of Thrilling Adventure Yarns, and the energy that goes into it is just as great, maybe even a little more so than with that first edition.
The first one I tried to sell the idea that it's got multiple genres on the cover, but since then you'll notice the second one has this giant snake. The third one has got a cult. Fourth one is a science fiction, and now we've got crime. So I'm trying to spotlight, the different genres cover to cover.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah, I don't think it says pulp any more than a giant snake coiling his way towards two people bound together by camplight.
That screams pulp.
Pretty pulpy.
Yeah.
And Bob, you want to talk about the rewards?
Okay, so with these Kickstarter campaigns, you can always get the book, but in an opportunity to offer more to the reader, make it a unique experience, we've got the ability to offer these digital packages where some of the authors contained in each volume offer up some of their own works as ebooks or PDFs. So we've got 3 different digital packages. We have the custom ads I mentioned. And then, of course, most of our authors have offered up Tuckerizations, so you could buy the opportunity to have your name or if someone you love's name used as a character in one of our stories.
Wow.
We offer editorial services for people who might want to get a professional to look at your short story or a chapter of a novel. We've got, I'll even sell you the dedication rights.
Yeah, it's very, the successful Kickstarters are very offer something that you can't get in a bookstore. I mean, you love going into a bookstore and seeing a book and picking it up. That's a wonderful experience. But it's even greater when you can open up that book and see your name in it, or as Bob says, the name of someone you care about. It's a great gift, right?
Yeah.
Wait, I'm in a book. I'm in a book. How did I get into a book? And you can do that pretty inexpensively just to get your name in. For a little bigger contribution, you can become a full-fledged character in that story. Perhaps even in my case, I think it'll be the protagonist. And
Oh, wow.
and if I'm not mistaken, I guess we also have an opportunity to get your likeness into the book.
I have not actually offered that yet because I have no guarantees I'll be able to afford artists yet.
Maybe I don't want to give away any secrets, but the point is that we want to give readers an opportunity to become part of the project, to
Absolutely.
something that they can't get anywhere else.
Well, I think it's a great idea.
So we get to the goal. We have a book. Everyone will have a book. It'll be wonderful. They can have it in hardcover, softcover, or just digital. But the stretch goals give us an opportunity to really enhance it. The first few volumes have benefited from original art to accompany each story. And I was able to tap into the comic book community, the people I used to work with when I was in DC Comics, and get them to do illustrations. And I think that really helps give us that pulp feel. So with any luck, there'll be an avalanche of money falling our way and allowing me to hire artists once more.
I think in particular with bookstores, it's really good to see them illustrated. It feels right to have a pulp story accompanied by an illustration, as they were, I believe, in the original magazines.
Right. Not every story was illustrated back then. I'm trying to get there, but I am definitely, my stretch goals are based on quarter of the stories, half the stories, 3/4, and then the full book.
Right. We have to see how far we get, but in
then I let the authors fight in amongst themselves who gets illustrated.
Yeah, and authors love to have their stories illustrated. It's a lot of fun. I mean, I can tell you, Bob knows from when I was writing for him at DC Comics. There's nothing I love better than to write something and see an artist's interpretation of it. That's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Particularly,
that. Yeah.
Particularly some of the artists, the great artists that Bob has selected for these projects.
And it's people who understand the pulps, who either alter their style or already had a style that matches the look of the old pulp artists, many of whom went on to become really good illustrators like Virgil Finlay and Roy G. Crankle. Others went into the comic book field like Alex Schomburg. And it's, it's nice to be able to honor those artists with similar art now.
Yeah. Okay, so these are the stretch goals. I'm sorry. Go on.
Yeah, I was just going to say, invariably, the artists come up with something that's just a little better than what you envisioned. They're that good.
Yeah, the way it usually works is if I can afford artists, I reach out to my cadre of artists. I say, are you available? Are you in? What genre do you want? And then we play mix and match. Other times, some people are very specific about who they want. And then we try and go out and get them.
But But in order to do any of that, in order to include any art, we have to hit these stretch goals. So we're very keen to do that.
Right. I mean, at this point, we're inching towards being fully funded, and then we could hopefully gallop ahead and get some of these goals settled. And with 12 days to go, hopefully we'll make it.
Like on wood.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, some of these are great goals, folks, especially the stretch goals. I mean, come on. We got to get these numbers up. Just to, get
Appreciate
artists.
that, Ian.
Yeah, we got to get these numbers up. So we're going to do everything we can to do that.
At $12,000, which is not out of the question, we have a special, very special goal. It's not art, but it's something very special. All right, Bob?
Yeah, Lester Dent, who created the Doc Savage character and wrote under the house name of Kenneth Robeson, we have been fortunate enough to work with his literary estate to publish some of his previously unsold stories, and that makes it unique, and it's a direct tie to the golden age of the pulps. So this time around, we're offering up a crime story by Lester Dent as one of our stretch goals that I really would like to include. We've been calling him our patron saint because of that direct connection to the past and the strong legacy he's got thanks to Doc Savage, who obviously helped influence Superman.
Yeah.
The other author stretch goal I've got is Adam Troy Castro, who's got a what will be the longest story in the book if we reach that goal. It's a fun science fiction story, and Adam's one of those guys I've been trying to get in the book for a while. So I'm delighted to see if I can entice people to back us to get his work included.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That would benefit everybody. Every time an illustration goes into the book, it benefits everybody who backs the project. Every time a story gets added, it benefits everybody. So if you're not a backer, you should be, and if you are a backer, you should get your friends involved so you can get a better package for your contribution.
We've managed to make each book profitable with about 300 to 400 backers, and it would just be ideal to grow that base, to add maybe another 100 this time around, and just try and snowball it from here. But every backer, I see so many repeat names, campaign after campaign, which means they're getting some value out of this, and hopefully each newcomer gets that same thrill and jolt of adrenaline, and we'll continue to support this book or anything else we're doing at Crazy 8.
All right. And obviously, as soon as the numbers keep going up, you get more and more artists involved.
Right, more and more artists. I'd love to be, being a paperback book, I'd like to be able to do a cover treatment or something. The ultimate stretch goal would be to get a bunch of the authors to do a book club discussion with their backers about 6 months after the book comes out. But that's our ultimate goal. We're not there. Be nice if somebody backed up a truck of money and threw it at us, but I'll start small. $15 for an ebook.
So who else? What other writers are involved in the initial package?
Okay, so new this book would be people like Max Allan Collins, who I've mentioned. J.M. DeMatteis, a great comic book writer since the 1980s, who has written a variety of characters in DC and Marvel, has written for film and television, animation, and he's a great guy. He's an old friend. Alyssa Whitney, who was an editor at the Vertigo imprint at DC, who eventually become a writer in her own right. The newest member to Crazy Eight, who joined us after the last book, is Christopher Abbott, who's done some great Sherlock Holmes pastiches, but in this case has come up with his an original horror story, which is fun. There's a science fiction author, Beth Cato, who is new to the book as well. I don't know Beth very well. She came recommended, and she's been terrific to work with so far. Coming back to the book are some of the Crazy Eight gang, Paul Kupperberg, Hildy Silverman, Russ Colchimero, Mary Fenn, who's got our cover story, me, Mike, Aaron Rosenberg, our book designer, as well as a writer. I'm sure there's one or two names that currently are escaping me. Me and Mike have stories in it, of course.
Yeah,
That's fantastic.
Something that we all look forward to. It's like, Bob. So when's the next book? When's the next thrilling adventure you aren't coming out?
We're running the campaign now, and it ends in the middle of December. Because I have a day job as a high school English teacher, I'm taking my time to craft the best package possible. So it'll be out next July, making its physical debut at Shore Leave in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, middle of July.
Okay. That sounds reasonable.
What Bob's telling you is he's a spectacular editor. He can't say that himself, but I can say that.
You flatter me.
He's sort of visionary. Nobody else came up with this. This was entirely his idea. And honestly, when we first started it, we didn't know if it would be that successful, but it really has been the most successful of the anthologies that we put out at Crazy Eight. The Crazy Eight, right?
Yeah, Crazy Eight, we have a lot of fun with because we all come up with themed anthologies, and we come up with shared worlds and invite each other in.
Yeah.
That provides our readers a lot of opportunity to try out new realities. But this one at Volume 5 is definitely the longest running of the bunch.
Yeah, and for good reason. It's just so much fun. It's and when writers have fun, readers have fun. It comes through. It comes through. Sometimes you get an invitation to an anthology, and maybe you want to bring your A game, but it winds up being your B game. But in Thrilling Adventure Gardens, it's always our A game. It's always everybody's inspired to do the best job they can. So it shows.
And I suspect secretly in all of our hearts, all of our contributors try and put themselves in the mindset of the old pulp writers who would sit there hunched over a typewriter 12 hours, 18 hours a day for half a penny a word or a penny a word if they were lucky, to pound out as fast as humanly possible, their stories and move on to the next one, which is why somebody like Lester Dent wrote so many stories, they did them all sell. They glutted the market.
There's a great tradition of writers, working as hard as they can because they get paid by the word. It goes back to Dickens and the great French writers. When they were writing Tale of Two Cities and The Hunchback of Notre Dame, they were all working.
Dumas was a serialized writer. No, he was one of the earliest.
And they were all getting paid by the word, and so you see these incredibly long digressions. Not unlike when the sun rises over the horizon and the clouds part and the sky is filled with splendor. You don't have to say that. You could just say it was bright. It was bright out, but they were getting paid by the word.
Yeah.
And that's where a lot of people were able to develop a unique voice and a style. I mean, you know, you look at Robert E. Howard or H.P. Lovecraft, who came up with very distinct voices while trying to write penny a word stories.
Yeah. So anyway, it's a labor of love, and you know, as I said, I think that comes out in the stories. I know that what I've done for Bob in these anthologies is some of my best work. It's stuff that I think will really not just you know, not just feed the reader, but have the reader coming away thinking, wow, that was even better than I thought it was going to be. And I think all these stories are like that. And if you do have a favorite writer, you know, let's say Paul Kupperberg, you know, who's a prolific comic writer and prose writer, and he's the guy who killed Archie, for God's sakes, right?
Is that?
Can you imagine your name coming up in a story by Paul Kupperberg or Jeff Thorne? That's somebody we forgot to mention somehow. But Jeff Thorne, who's written for the Librarians and Ben 10 and produces as well as writes for television. He wrote Green Lantern, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Can you
And the most recent version of X Factor.
Right? Can you imagine having your name pop up under his byline?
Oh God.
That's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. It makes you become more than a reader. You become a part of thrilling adventure yarns history, which is, after all, you know, part of the history of comics and science fiction and fantasy and all these great genres. So you become a part of it. It's pretty cool.
Oh yeah. For me, having grown up on this stuff, it is such. It's, I guess, in my way, you know, saying thank you and giving back. I think that's important.
Well, I think even, you know, I mean, Bob and I, as much as anyone of our readers, you know, we're fans of these genres. And I remember the first time I picked up a Doc Savage paperback, and you know, the first time I read a Shadow comic, and then I found out that these writers had written other characters, which is wow, that's cool, and I looked for those. So you know, I think we wanted to be part of the tradition, part of that legacy, and in a Kickstarter format like this one, readers can become part of that tradition, part of that legacy. That's pretty cool, and it feels good to be able to offer that. So you know, underlying all this, of course, is an appeal. You know, we need help, the help of our backers to make this a reality. And you know, in the larger context of where science fiction and fantasy and crime fiction, where all these things are today, there's a certain amount of jeopardy. You know, years ago when we started Crazy 8, one of the reasons was that Borders went out of business.
Yeah.
Right. And all of a sudden we went, whoa, Borders is going out of business. What happens if all the other retail book chains go out of business? What happens if this publishing company goes out of business and that publishing company goes out of business? They were the ones who controlled the, dare I say it, the narrative, right? They were the ones who controlled it and controlled the means of distribution. They controlled the means of production, and at Crazy Eight, our imperative was to create a bond directly between writer and reader that none of the vagaries of the market could affect. A bond that would continue. When you have an anthology like Thrilling Adventure Yarns 2026, it's what writers are saying is we think this is important enough to go out on a limb and put this concept out there. And when a reader backs this project, they're saying the same thing. They're saying we think that this kind of fiction is important enough to preserve, regardless of what book chains do, regardless of what traditional publishers do. We want to maintain this bond between reader and writer. We think that's important enough for us to make an effort to preserve it.
I think it's a good way to
But
do
he
it.
said,
Yeah, go way to do it. Especially just to make sure the bond between the writer and the reader is, you know, always there. Just to say, okay, you've seen what we can do. We guarantee you're in for a good ride. All right. So yeah, we're definitely gonna help you out with this project, making sure it gets off the ground the way it's supposed to be.
Yeah,
that's greatly appreciated because, you know, this book and this series of books will only survive as long as people back it and want to be part of it. You know, this obviously is a labor of love, but I do not have deep pockets to fund it by myself.
Yeah.
yeah. So, you know, everybody, it doesn't take much. We have a tip jar for $1, that's helpful. But how much is it for an ebook?
15 for the ebook, 25 for the soft cover, 35 for the hardcover.
Right. So
Okay.
right, even if all you've got is $15, you know, that's a very welcome contribution. And for that,
Absolutely.
you get all of this. It's in an electronic form, but it's also DRM free. So it's not going to disappear after a while. You know, you've got it indefinitely. And
Yep.
and you have access to what Bob says is the world's greatest writers, and says they're on the cover. And who am I to argue with that?
Well, there you go, folks. But personally, I go for the hardcover because it's nice to have that nice hardcover feel, don't you think?
Yeah,
But
I
yeah,
mean, you know, the hardcover is really nice and handsome, but I understand not everybody, you know, wants it or can afford it. So, you know, it's
yeah,
in every flavor available.
yeah. But yeah, I get it. And you know, if you guys are really starved for stories like this that take you back to yesterday, authors, this is definitely the stuff for you guys. This is definitely the anthology series for you guys. And these are being told by talented people, people that are passionate about not just their writing but also entertaining you. So it's up to you, the readers, and of course you, the viewers, now to really help them out and be just enthralled by the storytelling capabilities that some of these people are very well known for. So yeah, you wouldn't be your money would be well spent.
Thank you for saying that.
Yeah, yeah, I think so. I think so.
Yeah.
I can say that. I only have one story in the book, but I can tell you I'm looking forward to reading the others and to seeing
Me
the
too.
artwork. If we wind up getting that far, you know, seeing what some of these artists come up with.
Yeah, I could definitely say it's always great to see the artwork along with the story because I remember when they published a Rocketeer story in IDW Publishing, which was written
yeah.
by Bruce Timm, he added artwork into that story. I was like, wow, this really is like the pulp, magazines back in the day.
Yeah, the interesting thing is, in his own way, that Dave Stevens created the Rocketeer to honor the movie serials the same way I'm trying to honor the pulp magazines, and the
Yeah.
movie serials owe everything to the pulps.
That's right, they do.
So
Yeah.
there are a lot of connections there.
Yeah. Yeah. So, folks, we got 12 days to go. Okay. I think we can make some contributions here, to make it back to the goal and even reach some of the stretch goals, because I definitely want to see some illustrations in this. I definitely want to see a unpublished story by Lester. My God. So let's make it happen.
Sounds good.
Yeah. Yeah. Guys, I can't thank you enough for coming on to talk about this project. It's fantastic. At some point, and I know this is, probably too soon for this, but I would definitely like to contribute a story for your publication at some point.
From your lips to the backer's ears.
Well, there you go, folks. We really got to make sure it gets there.
So
but we got.
I truly thank you for giving me this platform to spread the gospel.
Of course, and by all means, come back anytime you want. When you're doing another one, because I guarantee you will be doing another one.
I like that. I like the sound of that.
Yeah.
Thrilling Adventure Yarns 2027. It's got a nice ring to it. But first, let's get 26 published.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, folks. So I have the link scrolling down there below. Just go to that, and of course, please check out Crazy 8 Ball, because by God, you got Tally Rise in there, including 2 of them right there. Yeah, so definitely check that out. Of course. And I know that the holiday seasons are coming up, so that's definitely going to be a Christmas gift or a Hanukkah gift for any one of your family or friends.
Yeah. What would be nicer than to gift them with being put into a story?
Mm-hmm.
That's an even better thing right there. Absolutely. Okay, before we go, I'd just like to plug in my own stuff, so just give me 1 second. As many of you folks know, I have my own comic book series under the Triple Threat Comics brand. It's called Codename Hunter. It's a sci-fi spy thriller. So picture James Bond meets Star Trek, meets Star Wars, with just a little bit of Guardians of the Galaxy, and you get Codename Hunter. We currently got 3 issues up and running on indieplanet.com. So this is issue 1, and this is issue 2 and issue 3. Currently working on issues 4 and 5 right now. In fact, I'm almost done, doing issue number 5. So you're going to be seeing that in a Kickstarter pretty soon. Possibly in the next year, hopefully, God willing, January. So very excited about that. And as always, hit that like button and subscribe. Guys, I can't thank you enough for coming on again and sharing this project with us. And we're going to make sure it gets funded the right way.
Great. Thanks
Greatly
for having
appreciate that, Ian. Thank you again.
Of course. Well, I think that's it for us tonight. I'm Ian Miller, and this has been Triple Threat Comics YouTube channel. Have a good night, folks.